Good afternoon. Thank you for joining and for already being seated so that we can start on time. My name is Sumaya Marnouch. I am an analyst at the OECD in the PISA team, and I'll be emceeing this event today and tomorrow. So welcome to the PISA conference on the use of PISA to inform policy and practice. We will start now, without any further ado, by our opening session with our distinguished guests. So I would like to give the floor to Ms. Zrinka Muzinic-Bikic, State Secretary from the Ministry of Science, Education and Youth here in Croatia, which is hosting us today. Over to you.
Thank you, and thank you for coming to Croatia in Dubrovnik. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished educational specialists and researchers, esteemed OECD colleagues and honored guests, we are gathered here from all corners of the world with a shared mission to explore how data and evidence from PISA can help us shape and inform the policies and practices that improve our educational systems. In a world where knowledge and innovation drive progress, the ability to use data for policy development is more crucial than ever. In this process, PISA and its rich data sources have proven to be important and powerful tools, but only as important and powerful as the actions we take based on them. It is up to us, as policymakers, educational specialists, and researchers, to make the most of those data sources and transform them into tangible improvements for our students. Each education system is unique, shaped by its culture, history, and socioeconomic conditions. For Croatia, the impact of PISA has been significant. PISA has contributed to reform changes. For instance, the insights we gained from PISA have played a crucial role in shaping the direction of the recent curricular reform, particularly in emphasizing the need for education that aligns with European and international standards. PISA has also helped raise awareness in Croatia of the importance of collecting independent and objective indicators on the quality and effectiveness of the educational system, as well as the need for continuous evaluation and adjustment of curricula to meet changing educational demands and global standards. As a result, with the introduction of state matura exams and the end of secondary education in 2010, as well as national exams at various stages of primary education in 2022, Croatia has developed a powerful tool for collecting national data needed for creating policies that contribute to the quality of the education system and a better alignment with international and European standards. Insights derived from PISA data helped us in designing the ongoing whole-day school reform launched in 2023 as part of broader educational reforms in Croatia. However, the relevance of PISA goes beyond individual countries. One of the greatest strengths of PISA is its ability to foster knowledge mobilization on a global scale. This is why this conference is so valuable. It offers a platform where countries can share best practices and collectively work towards stronger education systems. In conclusion, I encourage each of you to engage fully in the discussions over the coming days. This conference offers a unique opportunity to learn from one another and to deepen our understanding of how PISA evidence can drive meaningful change. I wish you all a successful conference and a pleasant stay in the beautiful city of Dubrovnik.
Thank you very much, State Secretary Bikic, and also thank you to you and everyone in the Ministry of Education here in Croatia for hosting us and making this possible. And now I give the floor to Andreas Schleicher, Director for the Education and Skills Directorate at the OECD.
Thank you so much. And first of all, a very warm welcome from the OECD. And thank you, Zrinka, and also all your colleagues from the Ministry of Science, Education and Youth, and of course the PISA National Center here for making this possible. It's really the combination of your professionalism and your warm hospitality that makes everything exceptional here in Dubrovnik. And it's just fantastic to have that possibility. I also want to thank Camille and my colleagues who have worked very hard to put this agenda together and to bring sort of the research really at the frontier of this, the the rationale for this conference is really very, very simple. You know, PISA derives all of its value from what people make out of it. It's, you know, an abstract piece of data until you turn that into action. And I think our data from PISA are only as valuable as what you make out of that. And that's really what brings us together. That's why I'm so happy that so many actually, you know, make the effort to come here to participate, both in person and online, under the theme of using PISA evidence to inform education policies and practices. You know, from its very humble beginning in 2000, throughout all of those years, the whole rationale of PISA has always been to advance the kind of evidence-based culture in education. That's why this was created. Now, it's a culture where decisions on policy and practice are based on what we know about outcomes. Now, it's not about making teaching or policy making less of an art. It always involves an element, you know, of judgment of art, but it is about making it more of a science. No? It's only when, you know, decisions are based on scientific understanding that they become sustainable, that good ideas can turn into good practice, and good practice can ultimately become part of the education culture across electoral cycles and all of the constraints under which we work. Now, you know, when I joined the OECD, and that was before PISA, we used to measure the success of education systems proudly on how much money is spent per student. That is the history of all of this, of international comparisons. And through PISA, we know that's a pretty poor proxy for what we actually achieve. Now, money is necessary, but it's never sufficient. It's the kind of policies and practices that turn money into outcomes that we need to look at. And PISA has enabled us to do that. Now, it provides that magic window to see what is possible in education in terms of the quality of learning outcomes achieved, in terms of equity in the distribution of learning opportunities, in terms of value for money. You can add many aspects to this, but this is the window that this provides us. And in doing so, it can help us to achieve two things. The first is to lower the cost of political action by giving policymakers data. It becomes easier to make and take and sell difficult decisions. Now, as a policymaker, you're confronted with many trade-offs and dilemmas. Now, you have to choose, you know, am I going to pay my teachers better, or make the classes smaller, or give students more learning time, or teachers more time to do other things than teaching? Those are difficult decisions. They touch on interest, and the more you can make those kinds of decisions on the basis of evidence, the lower the cost of political action. PISA has also been very, very good in increasing the cost of political inaction. You know that for many of your countries. No? You know, by putting data on the table, you know, it becomes harder for policymakers not to do things that are important, no? Because people start to see them. And I think those two, you know, levers, lowering the political cost of action and increasing the political cost of inaction, are really the tools that you have, but they depend on really good evidence. And, you know, it's easy to see where the successes are, but it's actually much, much harder to understand how have the countries that do well got to that position. And it's even harder to understand what you can learn from this for places in other contexts, in other cultures. And that's really what good research is about. And I think when you look at the agenda, what the kind of contributions that we see help us to achieve. They really look at the kind of work that is being done to understand what works in what context and how can we learn from that. And translating evidence into policy insights is only possible through a really, you know, robust ecosystems of actors like you. That people who understand, you know, the data, people who understand what they can be used for and can build those kinds of bridges to policy and practice. And that's really, I think, what the value of a conference like this is. Now we can bring together this community of practice, get inspired, you know, by, you know, how some people have turned data into insights and how these data and insights have been used in for policy and practice. And we have had similar conferences for our survey of adult skills, and they have actually inspired much of the analytical work that also was done subsequently at the international level. So I think we expect to get some very, very good ideas from this, bringing together policymakers, researchers, school educators, and we have 21 countries here. I think that's very, very impressive, sharing their experiences. There is, one final plea I have to you, and that is not just think about the research, but think carefully also about the pathways to knowledge mobilization. Now, how will research translate into action? Action among practitioners, action among policymakers. There's a lot that we know about education, but it's actually not easy to, transmit that knowledge, to change behavior and practice. No? Some of the reasons are very good. It's hard for anyone to change, but some of the reasons are bad, and that is basically ineffective knowledge mobilization. And that's, I think, where you can help us. No? We can see this often. In the past, we believed in linear knowledge mobilization mechanisms. Now you publish a nice research papers, and then you expect by magic that every teacher in the classroom will change their practice because everybody will read your research. Those kinds of linear mechanisms haven't worked well for policy, haven't worked well for practice. Later on, some education systems that do very well on knowledge mobilization understand that you need to build networks. If you engage teachers in, conducting some of the research, evaluating research, rewarding them for ideas, then, you have a bigger chance that teachers will actually, create more of a research mind, that teachers will develop that mindset that actually my practice can be transformed to research and evidence. And the same for policy. So I think building those kinds of networks in institutions, but also building better communication channels. And much of the work in education research is very, very hard to understand for both policymakers and practitioners. It's a matter of language, it's a matter of communication, it's a matter of methodological sophistication. We need to build those kinds of pathways to make sure that what we do is well understood, that we have powerful networks where the people at the front line are involved in the research, and where researchers have a good understanding of the realities of people in policy and research. And I think this is what conference like this, it brings together those people, can really achieve. So once again, my deepest thanks to you, Zinka, for making this possible, for putting us together, and I look forward to see the results from this.
Thank you very much, Andreas. And now we will turn to video from Stefan Hermans, Director for Policy, Strategy and Evaluation at the Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture at the European Commission. The European Commission supported a part of this conference by sponsoring some of the speakers from the EU that are joining us today. So thank you to them for that as well.
Dear Chair, dear Andreas, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the invitation to participate in this conference. Unfortunately, I cannot be physically in Dubrovnik today, but I'm grateful that I can share some thoughts with you on the role of PISA for the European Union. The EU is entering a new cycle at the political level. After the direct elections for the European Parliament, a new Commission is about to enter into office. The transition is an ideal moment to look back and assess, to scan scenarios for the future, and to look forward with plans to table new proposals and action. There is a political consensus on guiding principles: competitiveness, climate change, safety and security, preparedness, democracy, cohesion. No surprise, policymakers look at the role of education, an interest which is very welcome. However, that interest should not make us shy away from the very essence of education itself. And PISA provides data and evidence to guide us in that task. Having adequate basic skills is important in life, but the EU also needs a large number of young people with excellent levels of skills to sustain its future innovation capacity and competitiveness in a challenging global environment, as Commission President von der Leyen emphasized in the 2024-2029 political guidelines. Basic skills are already central in our efforts under the European Education Area Strategic Framework. The European Union uses PISA data for one of its headline education targets, helping to anchor and monitor policy implementation across the EU. Moreover, based on the PISA data, we have developed an indicator on equity and added this to the European Education Area Monitoring Framework in 2022. This indicator examines the prevalence of severe educational underperformance among disadvantaged learners. More broadly, the strength and acceptance of the quality of the PISA data have been critical in determining the education policy line under the European semester, the EU's overarching socio-economic reform agenda, with its spillover into investment decisions. PISA data are not just a source for immediate mobilization and reform. The wealth of data merits further in-depth analysis. Through its Research and Innovation Framework Programme, Horizon Europe, the European Union supports research teams to dive into the datasets. Under Horizon Europe, several calls dedicated to education were launched, and more calls will be launched. 8 large consortia started their work in 2024. Several of them are focusing on the assessment of inequalities in education, analyzing data from large-scale assessments such as PISA. In 2025, we expect research projects focusing on better understanding young people's transitions between education levels and how the transitions to the labor market are shaped. These research projects also contribute to a broader goal: to support education evaluations and bring research contributions to the policy debate on investment in quality education. This is also what we have been doing with the work of the expert group on quality investment in education, helping to develop an evaluation culture in the field of education policy, and the Learning Lab initiative to support the development of innovative and effective education and training practices in the EU. Dear friends, today's and tomorrow's event convenes policymakers, researchers, and practitioners. The European Commission is pleased to contribute to this event, also in a very concrete and practical manner, by facilitating the participation of several researchers present at the conference today. I wish you a fruitful exchange, and I'm looking forward to the outcome of the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so now I turn it over to Camille Vergler, who's the chair of the PISA Analysis and Dissemination Group at the PISA Governing Board. The PISA ADG group was instrumental in making this conference happen. And the chair will be presenting the overview of the conference and its objectives. Over to you, Camille.
Thank you, Sumaya. Well, dear State Secretary, dear directors, pre-recorded or in person, dear colleagues, dear participants, it is a great pleasure and honor for me to welcome you to this PISA conference, also on behalf of the ADG. For those who don't know, the ADG, that is the Analysis and Dissemination Group, is a subcommittee of the PISA Governing Board. In cooperation with our kind hosts here in Dubrovnik, Croatia, and the PISA Secretariat at the OECD, we have organized this conference. And if I may say so, we are excited. As you might remember, the last attempt to organize such a conference a few years back had to be cancelled due to the COVID pandemic. That is why we are even more thrilled that so many of you have showed up today, and either virtually or in person. A warm welcome to all of you. I will be providing a quick reminder of the objectives of this conference before presenting a rundown of the conference agenda to explain how we logistically organized the sessions over the next 2 days. So let me start with the objectives and the question, why a PISA conference? Well, a lot has been said already, and I really believe it is quite straightforward. Since its inception in the year 2000, PISA has provided tons of insights into student learning and education systems around the world. There is a lot of evidence based on PISA that can be used to inform policy and practice. Policy makers, researchers, and educators from more than 80 participating countries have experiences to share. There are several examples of research, approaches, and policies that utilize PISA evidence to answer national policy questions or school-level practices. And since countries' education systems often face similar issues, we wanted to provide a platform to share, promote, and document this rich expertise. Furthermore, we organized this conference to connect and expand the PISA community and to facilitate learning from each other, really. Now, for this conference, we chose to investigate the overarching question of how PISA evidence is contributing to providing education policy and practice in participating countries and economies. To this end, we launched a call particularly asking for contributions on the following 3 themes. Theme 1, the role of PISA evidence in national knowledge mobilization processes. Theme 2, the use of PISA to inform specific policy reforms and changes. And theme 3, the use of PISA to inform school-level practices. As the target audience, we chose to invite PISA governing board representatives, PISA national managers, and members of PISA national teams, policymakers, educators such as teachers and school principals, researchers, and finally other organizations with an interest in this topic. And as it appears, we must have hit the nerve. We are fully booked here on site. We are also expecting a considerable number of participants online, and the high number of inputs submitted had led us to split the conference into parallel sessions at times. And that brings me to the conference agenda. This afternoon will be fully dedicated to the theme 1 on the role of the PISA evidence, PISA evidence in national knowledge mobilization processes. We will have sessions 1.1 on the role of PISA in the monitoring of education system outcomes. Session 1.2 on mobilizing PISA evidence in national and subnational level research, and session 1.3 on mobilizing PISA analysis and research in policymaking here in this room. Tomorrow morning, we will start again in this room with one more session under theme 1. Session 1.4 will be on mobilizing PISA evidence to understand the impact of COVID-19 on learning. We will then continue with the first session on theme 3 on the use of PISA to inform school-level practices. This session 2 will be on improving teaching and learning practices. For organizational reasons, we will then jump temporarily to theme 2 on the use of PISA to inform specific policy reforms and changes. Due to the high number of submissions on this topic, we decided to continue with parallel session. Here in this room, we will have the session 3A1 on target policies to improve equity in education, and in the room on the opposite side, that is through the restaurant, past the lobby on the left-hand side, we will have the session 3B1 on improving learning through the intent and implemented curriculum. After tomorrow's lunch, we will then continue with parallel sessions under theme 2. In this room, we will have session 3A2 on segregation, progression, and inequality. And in the other room, we will have the session 3B2 on international benchmarking to inform policy. For the last part of this conference, we will then all return once more to this room, where we'll return to theme 3 and the session 4 on using PISA evidence to improve school-level practices. So please make sure you pick in advance which of the parallel sessions you are interested in, and make sure you end up in the right room. As a last point, I would like to quickly express my heartfelt thanks to the Croatian Ministry for having us, and also to my colleagues from the ADG for agreeing to moderate these various sessions. Given the hybrid format of this conference and the international attendance, this is not an easy task that really shows their commitment. So thank you very much.